Drama on Wall Street today. We are a little early today, but I've got to get going before the market closes. So we're going to do this a little early. I don't think a whole lot is going to change in the next 20 minutes here. So we're just going to go ahead and do this. Um, Today, a stock I follow a lot and have talked about a lot on this channel is United Natural Foods, ticker symbol UNFI. They are food wholesaler, distributor. Um, they recently bought a company called Super Value for $2.9 billion. When this transaction went through a few months ago, that's maybe longer than I think, maybe six months ago or more. Super Value stock soared, I think, around 70% that day, and Natural Foods, United Natural Foods stock started to absolutely tank that day, and it's just been going down ever since. Just the last week or so, finally, it's stopped falling. Um, but today, some news: Goldman Sachs, ticker symbol GS, was an advisor to United Natural Foods when this deal went down. And United Natural Foods is suing Goldman Sachs and Bank of America. Good for them. Over issues regarding the purchase. They say that Goldman Sachs pressured United Natural Foods into higher commissions, higher fees, parts of the deal that weren't originally agreed upon. And they claim that they were looking out in their best interest, Goldman Sachs and Bank of America were, rather than the client's best interest, who was United Natural Foods. No surprise there. The banks, this kind of makes me nervous with the whole market being as high as it is and what happened in 2007, 2008. A lot of this drama involved the banks doing some real shady business. And, banks always do. And that's probably will always be the case. But it seems like I'm reading more and more stories lately. Deutsche Bank, of course, is just terrible with some of these accusations that come out and fines they have to pay over all these lawsuits. And just if you find Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, or Deutsche Bank and go under the articles under their stock prices, you'll just find, if you keep scrolling, you'll just find lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit over the years. Or just Google those companies. It's absolutely amazing. You'd think that if any company was that dishonest, that they would, I mean, the CEO would be in jail and the company would be bankrupt. And we've talked about a few companies like this in the past, but banks are just notorious. And things seem to be getting out of hand again, like they were in 2007, 2008, when banks were giving loans to anybody that could sign their name on a mortgage application. So this is, who knows? I don't have any inside information on this. I don't know what went down with United Natural Foods and Goldman Sachs and Bank of America. Nothing surprises me with the banks anytime they're accused of anything. I've just read and seen so much that goes on that sadly, none of it surprises me anymore. It's almost expected. It's almost something that the banks, I think, just expect. They probably have a fund they set aside where it's like, okay, if we get caught doing this, we're going to get fined, so we better set aside this much amount of money. It's almost like an expense account for getting fined for all the dishonest things they do. So this probably isn't too big of a deal to them. I'm sure they've got their own team of lawyers. I would think it would probably hurt, even if United Natural Foods is wins this lawsuit. I would think that the fees. I mean, they're already a company we've talked about that has with this purchase has a mountain of debt, and they actually did before that. I'm really not sure if this was a smart move in the first place. Um, you know, the CEO of United Natural Foods is it can't be too much of a deal maker. If you're going out and making this deal, you got to make sure you get terms that are favorable for you. And if Goldman Sachs starts pushing you into a corner, You know what? You can't fall in love with any person successful in real estate business. They'll all tell you you can't ever fall in love with a piece of property or any type of deal. Any deal you go into, you have to be able to walk away. And what it looks like is United Natural Foods was not in that state of mind where, okay, if this happens, we are going to walk away from this deal. They were set on doing this deal, and Goldman Sachs probably saw that, took advantage of them, and now this is where we are. So, just some great advice anytime, if you're going to buy a house or buy a business or any negotiation you're in. I don't care how in love you are with whatever it is you're negotiating with. If you don't get the terms you want, walk away from the deal. It might be the best thing that ever happened. And I would be willing to bet anything the CEO, Steve Spinner, I believe his name is, United Natural Foods, is probably thinking the same thing right now. He should have just walked away from that deal. Now, rather than focusing on the business, he and his team are going to have to focus on this lawsuit against Goldman Sachs. And even if they win, I'm not sure, maybe they get a couple hundred million back that Goldman Sachs gouged them, with fees or interest charges. Even that's probably best case scenario. It's United Natural Food stock was down about 3% this morning, and I think that was the consensus. And then it actually recovered. It's coming back as we speak. It's still down a little bit, but that's one that's now especially I was thinking if that stock got much lower, it would be tempting to buy some. And now with that news coming out today, I just don't think you can. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel right now for United Natural Foods. This could get really ugly really fast if they get into a drawn out lawsuit with Goldman Sachs. So yeah, it's too bad. But it's these are the types of things you want to learn from. Don't learn some of that stuff the hard way. Follow, that's what I love about following the markets and following all these stocks and reading books on business is you learn stuff like this instead of having to go through it the hard way. So take this lesson and don't ever fall in love with a property or business or anything. I shouldn't say not anything. I want your girlfriend or wife to hear that, but um and they're things, they're things, vehicles, um, houses, businesses, they're just things. They There's plenty more out there. You don't get in this state of mind where I'm gonna do this deal no matter what. You know what? You come off as desperate when you have that frame of mind. I've seen it happen before in real estate. I've heard stories of someone who just absolutely fell in love with the house, and then they went to close on the house, and the seller decides, oh, you know, we're gonna add $10,000 onto the price of the property now. They weren't in the position where they're willing to walk away. You have to be able to walk away from any deal. Okay. General Electric. Man, I am wishing I would have bought some General Electric stock now. I just about pulled the trigger when it was a little over $7. Um, Spiked up today in earnings 12%. General Electric's over $10 now. That happened very fast. I think about a 35% gain in just a couple months for General Electric. So we'll see if they can continue that streak. Facebook up 11%. Strong revenue for Facebook. Prana Biotechnology. This is a company you probably never heard of. They're a tiny company. I want to say they're like 10 to 20 million dollar company, something like that. Um, they actually they have an Alzheimer's drug. The news today didn't have anything to do with the Alzheimer's drug. That's what I was when I seen the price when the stock was up. it came down some, but this morning it was up 20%. And I thought, oh, I wonder if it has something to do with the Alzheimer's drug, because Alzheimer's is huge. If any biotech company can cure Alzheimer's, especially a small company like this, which is be absolutely amazing. But it was apparent, I didn't even realize this, but they have another drug in their pipeline which was granted orphan designation today by the FDA. So that was some good news there. But the stock came down 11%. That is an extremely volatile stock. When I first started following that stock, it was absolutely skyrocketing. That's how I heard about it. I believe this was back in maybe 2011, 2012. If you look at the chart, it got all the way up to, I'm just guessing. And I have an idea. I want to say it was like, $50, $60. Maybe not quite that. It was a pretty big number compared to where it was. You'll have to go and look at the chart, because there was anticipation leading up to this Alzheimer's trial. The stock had literally was below $2, and just went within a short period of time, a year or two, it just absolutely went up like 2,000%, something like that, on just an anticipation of these drug results. And what happened is the drug results were not favorable, and the stock tanked that day, literally 85%, something like that. And it's never really recovered. It has these huge spikes once in a while. Just a couple weeks ago, it had a huge spike where there was a company that invested in Prana, and the stock was up like 40% or something one day. And then within the next couple weeks, it literally gave back all of its gains. And now, today, it's up, it was up 20%, and now as we speak, it's up about 11%. So not too big of a jump for a company that small. So it's one that I watch. I don't think I'll ever put any money into it. It's kind of like a lottery ticket. You go buy a Powerball ticket. It's like, and which I don't, maybe a couple times a year, I buy a Powerball ticket. To me, that's even a waste of a couple dollars. It's like, I just don't think I'm going to win the lottery. And I kind of feel the same way with a stock like that. How much money you can pretty much expect to lose whatever you put into it, is how I feel about it. Yeah, there's maybe a 1 in a million chance that they find a cure for Alzheimer's, and it turns you into a millionaire. But the other 99.99% chance is that you're going to lose everything. They're just going to keep diluting shareholders until your shares are worth nothing. So, if you want to follow, I just like to follow it just because of the fact to see if they're making any progress, not really even as an investment. But some of these companies, it's just nice to see what's going on, and if they're making any progress. So, Sarepta was up 7% today. I think we talked about that one yesterday. It's a biotech company. I believe they're involved in gene editing. So it's kind of a hot topic in biotech all the time. Wasn't actually any news out the last couple of days. So unless there's something behind the scenes going on there with Sarepta, ticker symbol SRPT.